The Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie came out a week ago, and as a longtime fan, I'm seriously disappointed. I'm sure a good number of you have seen my previous video, explaining the movie's lore and what I liked and disliked in the sequel. I talked about how Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was my favorite game of the series, and how they butchered a handful of fan favorite characters. They really did Michael Afton dirty in this movie continuity. He's nothing like the source material. It was clear after watching the sequel that the movies were taking a very different direction than the games. They want to incorporate the main elements of the games while telling their own story, with the more audience-friendly, coherent continuity. Obviously, the main reason they did this was ticket sales. Unfortunately, if you're a VHS tape fan, the movies aren't scary in the slightest, and it feels like Scott pulled away from the horror aspect to appeal to younger children. Sadly, this is because the majority of the fandom nowadays are children or just soft. This is my main concern for the alleged finale. According to Matthew Lillard, the actor for William Afton, when he signed on to the first movie, he signed a 3-picture deal. This means he agreed to a full trilogy, which was Scott Cawthon's plan from the beginning. He wanted a trilogy focused on the first 3 games. We've already seen the first 2 movies of the first 2 games, so all that remains is the 3rd movie based on Fazbear Frights. If you don't know Fazbear Frights, it's the main setting of Five Nights at Freddy's 3. It's a haunted house horror attraction replica of the old restaurants. It was designed to capitalize on the urban legends surrounding the pizzeria chain. It's full of Easter eggs such as old animatronic parts and decor from the original pizzerias. We already know this will be the main setting of the 3rd movie thanks to the post-credits scene of the 2nd movie, which features a group of scavengers breaking into the abandoned pizzeria to salvage props for a haunted house. During the search, the men find a particular suit left in the back room. They even go as far to quote the call from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. "We found one. A real one." Obviously, this is referencing Springtrap, the main antagonist of the 3rd game. They go on to edge us for a minute, making us stare at the reaction of the men who found the suit, until we get a very brief glimpse of the suit itself. In the final shot, the left eye begins to activate. All of this setup is clearly leading the finale to be focused on Springtrap. It's also important to remember the ending of the puppet possessing Vanessa. Last we saw of Vanessa was Mike cutting ties with her to protect Abby for good. A pretty valid move considering Vanessa has spent 2 full movies just spewing lies to his face and endangering everybody. He gave her multiple chances, but she just proved time and time again that she couldn't be trusted. Now she is all alone and possessed by the puppet. So what's going to happen in the final movie? I think it's safe to say that Mike and Abby are going to take the bench in this entry. They have been the main focus of the first 2 movies, and I think it's a good time to back off and focus on the man behind the slaughter, William Afton. Mike had very brief ties with Henry Emily in the sequel, and obviously Henry Emily will be very important to the finale, so that's really the only time I can expect him to make an appearance. Like I mentioned in my prior video, the 3rd movie needs to focus on William Afton and Henry Emily, the duo behind everything. We've seen pretty much nothing on them, which is crazy considering how essential their pairing is to the franchise. Here's where it gets a little tricky. Obviously, Vanessa is possessed by the puppet, and they aren't just going to drop that and move on. Charlotte was the main antagonist of the 2nd movie, and I think she will have a very important role in the finale. If any of you guys are familiar with Security Breach, one of the lesser received games of the franchise, you probably know this character. This is Vanny, the mind-controlled version of Vanessa. Vanessa is the main security guard in Security Breach, whose mission is to apprehend Gregory, the boy lost in the Pizzaplex. Her mind has been manipulated by the digital spirit of William Afton to continue the legacy of his murders. Now, let's backtrack a little. The movie universe takes elements from the games and kinda does its own story. I think this will be one of those cases. Instead of Vanny working under William Afton's control, she will work under Charlotte's control. Maybe she will even get the bunny mask. She could work well as a side villain, and she could even make up for all the blood and gore we were promised in the last movie. I think my biggest problem with the sequel is how dumb the deaths were. Baby puppets pulling you under the water, off-screen kills. It was just unsatisfying. One of the only real ways they can sell this final movie is giving it a much darker tone than the originals. Springtrap and Vanny need to have some crazy kills with some actual gore. Blumhouse has said numerous times that the movies are for the fans, but in reality, they are catered towards audiences. They want to make the most money possible and appeal to the younger Five Nights at Freddy's fans. I was fine with the first movie, but I thought it had room for improvement. Everything I didn't like in the first one was toned up 10 times in the sequel, so it was pretty hard to sit through. I really hope they don't repeat this trend. The movies don't take themselves seriously, which is why the third needs to be rated R. The PG-13 rating really just holds them back from doing so many incredible bloody kills. They could start the movie with a flashback to Fredbear's family diner. This could show off the dynamic between Henry and William to kinda set the tone for the movie. They could further this by showing the original Spring Bonnie and Fredbear performing until a crying child gets bit, thanks to Michael Afton. The Bite of 83 would be the opener. Simple yet impactful, like the first two movies had. They could show off the recourse Michael's actions had on him and show how he went to the sister location to end his father's creations. Then we get to see Michael scooped and replaced by Ennard. Keep in mind this all happens before the events of the first two movies. Then we come back to the normal early 2000s time period with Henry and Emily trying to stop Charlotte. We see Fazbear's Fright in full action and even some Springtrap moments. Obviously Vanny would be in the mix, causing trouble to innocent people or going after Mike and Abby. Like I said earlier, I hope they try to sideline Mike and Abby in this movie, so that plotline would be less of a focus than Springtrap and Henry Emily. At this point, we really don't know much of what to expect in the third film, but that's how I think it will start. The rest, I don't really know, but I really hope they go all out on this final entry. What do you guys think will happen?